Hey, toy fans. I'm Tony from Analog Toys, and welcome to episode 18 of Palitalk, a retro toy podcast. And I'm joined today by the incredible actor that you may remember from such films as The Long Kiss Goodnight, The Green Mile, and Michael Bay's The Rock. It's David Morse. No, seriously. It is the ruggedly handsome owner of Reklaimers Vintage Toys. It's my friend, Matt Swaford. Matt, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful, sir. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm much better than I have the last couple of days.
Yeah. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, it was. I'm one of those people. I don't really get sick very often, but this really knocked me about for a few days. It's some kind of virus, but I seem to be past it now. I'm feeling way better today.
There's a lot of that going around, so I'm glad it was just some kind of virus, not the other one.
I'm pretty certain it wasn't that one because since the start, there has never been COVID in the town where I live. Not one case, because we're so remote. So I would have had to have traveled somewhere to have contracted COVID. So
nice.
But look, I was picking out a T-shirt, and I thought the last time we appeared on camera was during Iconicon when we were on camera together.
That's correct.
And I thought it's also a really cool T-shirt, and I miss being able to wear it. So I almost don't want to get a new one designed for next year. I feel like it should just be this again, but we'll probably do another one.
Love that image, but I've got kind of a love-hate relationship with you and that T-shirt because
okay.
I moderate and admin the Iconicon Facebook group. And for some reason, when I'm on my normal Facebook page, it pops up with this ad of the picture of you when you first got that shirt, and you just put it on, and you're like this, and
like, sucking my gut in.
And it keeps showing me that, and it's like, here, boost this post and promote your page, and I keep Xing it and putting hide this picture, like I don't want to see this because we're not going to promote it because Iconicon's next year, And
yeah.
It will not go away. It comes up every single day. So every single day I see you wearing that shirt.
It's not even a great picture either. I didn't have lighting or anything. I just put it on. I was so happy with it.
Popped around the corner and was like, and it was but yeah. So I have that image burned in my head all the
time. I apologize.
It's okay. It's not your fault.
We got quite a few people in the chat here. Jim Largo, thank you very much for the mystery box you sent the other day. No one's seen the video yet, but it's not just going to be an unboxing. I've rolled it into something bigger. I filmed a lot more of that this morning. So I'm hoping to get that out by the end of today, my time. It's obviously morning for me. Melinda Mock, good to see you here. Michael Schaefer. Jill the Ripper, Dean from All Things 80s, Keith Knight, That American Kid. So while we've got all these people in the chat here, let's start off by you telling everyone what it is you do, certainly in the toy world, and where they can find you.
Who are you and what do you do? I am Matt Swaford, and I am the owner-operator. I love saying that, owner-operator of Reklaimers Vintage Toys on Instagram. That's where you can find me. I sell all kinds of stuff, mostly action figures and vehicles from typically 77 to 93, 94. I don't get too much into the 90s stuff for a couple of reasons. One, I was grown by then, and two, most of it sucks. and as a reseller, it's wow, here's this thing for $8. Please buy it, and then I'll spend $8 shipping it to you. And then the 70s stuff. There's some really cool stuff in the 70s. I love when I find Micronauts, but they're always just in such terrible shape. And so I pretty much just skew towards our Gen X wheelhouse of vintage toys.
Yeah, nice. We've got Retroblast here saying he's the only man I trust. Some dude who said that cool line in a movie I can't remember. And links to Reklaimers Instagram are in the description of the video, as well as a link to Reklaimers Patreon. Now, Reklaimers Patreon is not like my Patreon or Retroblasting's Patreon. Matt doesn't have a YouTube channel. What his Patreon is for is you can get early access to the new items that he has available. And I have some of my best purchases through Reklaimers have come through being a member of his Patreon. So recently I've bought, I don't know how many Centurions I've bought from you lately. Lots of mask stuff. I got my vintage Kenner Ecto 1 through Reklaimers. Great seller to deal with. Really good prices. Nothing's overpriced. Just a good, and actually, you've got an item that I purchased a while ago that I've asked you to hang on to because we just can't. Americans can't ship to Australia at the moment, which is frustrating.
I got that Centurion's Max Ray, and he's just perfectly packaged, sitting in a box, waiting to go.
Well, we might have to add some more into that box while we're waiting. I've been thinking about pulling the trigger on that Rambo. Is it the Skywolf? It's like the only vehicle from the first wave I don't have, so.
That's the only Rambo vehicle from that collection. I bought a big Rambo collection. That's the only piece left, and I thought it would be the first one sold. And
yeah,
that's how it happens.
yeah. So I thought we'd start off this particular Palitalk by having the audience, get to know you a little bit better. So kind of tell us, where it was you grew up and what were the toys that you were really passionate about when you were a child.
I grew up, born and raised in South Florida, in the swamp, a little bit outside the Everglades. Whenever I say the name of the town, nobody knows. They're like, So, basically an hour from each coast and about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Miami. So, really, I grew up in what I call actual Florida. Everybody thinks of Florida and they think Disneyland and beaches. And I grew up in Florida, Florida, where, it's all cow pastures and orange groves and just, crazy stuff. So, I grew up with alligators in my backyard, put it that way. And, born in 1977, grew up, I have an older brother that's almost 6 years older than me. And so he was the prime age for the first Star Wars movie when it came out. Like toy buying age and just, like fully absorbing it when it came out. I was born 6 months after that movie came out. So I've never known a world without Star Wars. The first things I remember playing with were his hand-me-down Star Wars toys. And I had no idea what they were. They were just like men. That's, it was like, oh, where's my men? Where's my guys?
Yeah.
And they, and I knew, after seeing the movie when I was like 3 or 4, like I knew who Luke Skywalker was and Han Solo and all that. But Han in Hoth gear was Snowman. I've never seen Empire Strikes Back. So I'm like, that's Snow Guy. Like, I don't know what he does. But I kind of, that was my introduction to things. The first toys that I really remember hitting at ground zero was He-Man and then G.I. Joe. And then after that, everything was kind of secondary. So that was my introduction to 80s toys.
So I'm not gonna ask you like for your social security number and all that, but what month were you born?
November.
Damn it, I'm older.
The end of November, I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much because you never know who's watching. There's
exactly
in the bushes.
Yeah. So very similar to me. I grew up with my brother's hand-me-down Star Wars toys. So I got handed down his toys from the first film. And then I'm pretty certain everything I had from Empire was stuff that was actually bought for me.
Nice.
Then I don't remember having a lot of Jedi stuff because I think by then I'd maybe moved on to Masters of the Universe or something like that. But Masters of the Universe was maybe a 1 year thing for me. But obviously Action Force, both the Palitoy Action Force and then the Hasbro Action Force, where it was just G.I. Joe brought over. That was a really, really big toy line of mine during the 80s, along with I had a big love affair with Rambo for about a year. I remember a whole Coleco Rambo Christmas where I got the Defender and the Strike Cycle and all that stuff. So
it's such an odd phrase. It was the Christmas of Rambo.
I had an 18 Christmas. I had a Rambo Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those. The Christmas of '84 was my Transformers Christmas.
Yep.
I think I don't know if I said this on Sal's How We Played, the episode that I did on 2 Cents, but my mom went out and me and my brother were all about Transformers. Like when G1 hit, it was like, oh my god, this is the sauce, And she went out, and my mom's a really, not so much anymore, but she kind of taught me how to shop because I grew up, me and my brother, she raised us with my grandmother, and so she had to be savvy with how she spent her money. I don't want to say I was poor, but she put herself through nursing. I can't speak today. She put herself through nursing school, and so whenever she would take us to buy clothes, like we'd go to the clearance rack, like first thing, like okay, let's see what's cheap. All right, all this stuff sucks. Let's go, and then we would kind of go from there. But she was, I don't know how she worked it, but she ended up getting us almost the entire first run of G1 Transformers that Christmas. Between the two of us. Like I want to say he was a little bit older, so he got like Megatron and Soundwave, and then I had like all the other ones. According to her, she bought them all. Our house got broken into 2 weeks before Christmas, and they took all but like 2 presents and all of her jewelry and bicycles, and like we got raided, and so she got the insurance money, and we ended up going transient that Christmas. And we traveled and saw family in like Orlando, and then we went up to Georgia, and we went to South Carolina, and like seeing all of my dad's side of the family. So we got like every different town we went to, she would take us to the mall, and we would like, oh, you get to buy stuff for Christmas. So it was kind of like an a la carte Christmas. And we didn't replace all of those Transformers. I ended up buying different stuff. But yeah, I guess she found some place that had 2 for 1 on all of the like the Prowl and the Ironhide sized Transformers. Yep. So she was just like loading up, getting different ones.
Yeah.
that will always be my Transformers Christmas, but it's got an asterisk next to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an asterisk next to mine, but it pales in comparison to the story you just told. Mine was just getting Megatron and thinking that he sucked.
Yeah, he's awesome in gun form, and then you transform him, and it just looks. It looks like you want to put him out of his misery. Where it's just like, I'm sorry this happened to you, robot. Like, I'm sorry.
He just became a role play toy for me when I wanted to act out James Bond, because you had all the attachments on the gun, and he stopped being a transformer very, very quickly. So yeah.
Yep. And you try to transform him, and you get stuck. So it's like a handle, and then like the barrel's just kind of dangling, and yeah, it's ridiculous.
and a very awkward trigger placement.
Yeah, that kind of ruins it. He looks like a monkey with a trigger crotch. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not only the owner operator of Reklaimers Vintage Toys, you are also a collector yourself, I take it.
I am. A lot of people ask me, like on the Instagram and just in general, they think because I sell toys that I must keep all the choice pieces and that I've got this like massive archive museum collection, and I don't. My collection is behind me. I have 2 IKEA Detolf cases. They're filled to the brim, but they got stuff on top. I've got these 2 little shelves over here, and I've got in my living room, we have it kind of like movie themed. So I have a glass case with movie and TV show related stuff.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like I kind of started Reklaimers because I love finding this stuff. I love the archaeology of it. I love procuring stuff. I love saving it, reclaiming it from the wild, fixing it up, cleaning it, making sure it's complete, and then passing it on to somebody else. I love acquiring it. I love having it for a short amount of time. And then I want it to go to somebody that is going to put it like in a place like that. Because I used to have a really big collection, and I just kind of got to the point where I was collecting just to have things, and I was putting them in boxes and shoving them under the bed, and I had them stacked up in the closet. And I feel like when you get to that point, it's like you're not collecting it to display it. you're hoarding it, and you're kind of like, oh, I just have to have this. Oh, I've got this really rare $500 figure. Let me put them in a box and shove them away. And it's like,
yep.
For me, I didn't see the point anymore. I was like, this is just a waste of money and effort, and nobody can see it. Nobody can enjoy it. I can't even enjoy it. I'm scared of anybody touching it. So I would rather pass that on and have everybody else, either enjoy that or have that, rack their brains and give them anxiety. But so this became a way for me to still acquire stuff, but then turn around and, release it back into the wild. So I guess I'm a catch and release business. And it's bittersweet too, because sometimes I come across things and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm never going to see another one of these again. Like I'm never going to get one of these for the price that I got it for. And sometimes that pride messes with me where it's like, wow, this is an $800 piece that I got for $100. I'm never going to see this again for that price. I'll never have a chance to own it cheaply again. So it's bittersweet when I got to pack those things up. But it's an agreement I made with myself.
So I can see the Detolfs behind you there. You've got some Inhumanoids. You've got Kenner Superpowers.
Sorry for the glare.
Voltron.
Yeah, I got a little bit of everything. I've got the Inhumanoids from the retroblasting video. They take up 3 shelves. I've got Panosh, Voltron, some modern Transformers, actually, because here's a hot take. I prefer them to the G1s. I think G1 Transformers I love the characters, but I think those toys are fragile. I think you transform them once and then they're just statues. And some of them, they look really like, stilted. And, you put all the weapons and missiles on them and they're just like, so I picked up the Movie Master series or whatever it's called of Hot Rod, Cup, Grimlock. I got the non-transforming Optimus and Megatron because they're in scale. And I got a Masterpiece Dinobot from my girlfriend April a couple years ago for Christmas. So I don't know what else you guys can see, but...
So I think you've just answered Liar Convoy's question there. He says, is that a Masterpiece Hot Rod I see there?
Not a Masterpiece. That's the film series or whatever that came out a couple months ago. I saw it and I thought it was really cool. I got him. I got Cup. I think that's in Grimlock. I got those 3, and if I find the RC or Retgar, I'm going to pick those up too. And I don't know if they've done Springer or not, but I don't know. I think they look cool. Most modern stuff I avoid. I do have the whole run of Motu Origins there on the bottom shelf, and I just picked up the castle, but I have no idea where I'm going to put it. Leaving it in the box for now.
That's one piece from Origins that I don't want to get, is because I've got a mint complete vintage one. I know it's different and there's been some improvements made, but there's a lot of other areas of Motu that needed big improvements. Castle Grayskull, I don't think, was one of them.
No, I had the Classics Grayskull, which for all the problems that Classics had as a line, I had almost a full run of those too before I moved back down to Florida. And thanks, Big Lots. I came into those way late, and when I found them at Big Lots, all those $10 ones that they had at Big Lots, I was just like, you're getting you. And then I just picked them up after that. The Classics Castle Grayskull, I ended up getting it on clearance too for, I think it was $150. And man, that thing was a sight to behold. And after seeing that one, I'm afraid to open this one because I'm going to be like remembering that one when I see this one, and it's like it's not as cool.
Not as expensive though either.
Very true, but it's kind of like going from a Ferrari to a Fiero,
Yeah.
It's a fine car, but it's not Ferrari.
So we've got a few super chats here. So James Salzberg, thanks very much for the super chat. He says, Do collectors make settlements arrangements with you if they leave a big collection so the spouse doesn't have to worry about it? Oh, I think that's a question specifically to you, Matt.
No, nobody's done that yet, except for Michael at Retroblasting has said a few times that if anything ever happens to him, I'm in charge of settling his toy estate.
Yeah, well,
if that ever happens. So yeah.
Now you have another person on that list. I'll actually, I'll write it into the will that we pay for a return flight for you in April to come to Australia on a holiday, and you can help Grace out with all of this mess. So
yeah, that would be an adventure right there. But if that ever did come to pass.
Master Son 42, thank you for the super chat. He said, "What's up, Tony? Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, mate." And Matt, did you get those Centurions okay?
Yes, sir, I did. Yes, Clemens, good to see you, man. Yep, they came in the mail. Got them last week, I think. Yep, and I actually got outbid on the detonator. Clemens, Master Son, had an auction on Facebook, and I had the high bid on a detonator for you, Tony, and it was only missing, I think, 2 pieces, and I have both of them. And it was, I think, it was $45. And a guy, I mean, not to complain and whine, but like a guy it was after like the clock struck, and I was like celebrating. I was like, yes, I got that one too. And then he dropped a $1 higher bid, and I was kind of like, oh, that was before comments locked. But yeah, so it happens because I knew you've been looking for one.
Yes, I would love to get a detonator. Jim Largo, thank you. He says, "All hail Iconocon's reigning champion of trivia." I knew someone.
You mean when I won this?
Oh. Sal mentioned to me yesterday. He was like, I wonder how that trophy's going. He's simply the best around.
I couldn't read it there for a second. It says, "I'm the best around." That was a good time.
Who will challenge Matt's title in Iconicon 2? Nice to see you on Palitalk. Thanks, Jim. I'd happily challenge Matt again, but it would have to be a trivia competition about Palatoy. I've got to get the upper hand somehow.
You would definitely get some ringers from me on that one, because I know nothing about a lot of foreign toys, even from that era. I just don't know a lot about. So yeah, that might give you the advantage.
Maybe I'd have to cheat somehow. Grindhead Jim, thank you for the super chat. He says, "Cheers to 2 of the best in this community." Much appreciated, Jim.
Cheers, Jim. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And your Muslim uncle, thank you. He says, "Super inspirational to hear buff dudes talk about toys and nerd stuff." Thank you both. And the overall Iconicon community at large, you guys rock. I find it weird when someone calls me buff. Like, from literally this point down, I've got a fat beer belly. And
well, I'm not as buff as I used to be, so thank you. But
and Mvargo97, thank you. He says, "Glad to see you feeling better, Tony. Question for Matt: why did you choose to sell on Instagram versus a more traditional means of commerce?"
That's a good question, and I don't mean that in the snake oil salesman way. When people normally say, "That's a good question," let me think about that for a second. I picked Instagram because I had an account for my previous business. Before I moved back down to Florida, I lived up in New England, and I owned a smoke shop that sold pipes and vaporizers and all that kind of stuff, and grinders. And so I didn't sell cigars, not that kind of smoke shop. I had an Instagram for my store, and we would post things like I'd get in a new, water pipe or whatever. We would take a picture of it and do like a demo or whatever. And then we would post it, and people would just, "Oh my God." Oh, and like, I'd get people calling the store and coming down just because they saw that. So I saw the marketplace potential in it. And I was like, oh, let me see what else is on Instagram. And this was years ago. This is when Instagram was kind of a newer thing. And I saw that there was a really good toy community, but it wasn't huge, but I was finding stuff and just like, oh, wow, this guy's got a great page, and this guy. And I saw there's one called Far Toys Vintage, and they are, I think they're out of the Northwest, but he's got like 30,000 followers or something like that. And every time he would sell something, I saw him post something and it was just like, here, or whatever it is, and he would describe it. And he usually, I want to say he throws a lot of like funny stuff in about it. Like he makes a lot of jokes. So you got to read like a paragraph of his shtick.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, whatever. And then here it is. And then here's the price. By the time you get done reading that paragraph, 3 people had already claimed it. And I saw that happening every time. And I'm like, wow, like this is a viable thing. So I just started it. And I happened to come across a really, really big collection and got, I hate when people talk about them like scores, like we're knocking down banks, but it was a really good score. I mean, I think I paid $300 for it, and it was, I don't know. And at the time it was so much stuff. I didn't even know what was there. So I just kind of took I got $300, man. Like, will that do it? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'll even help you load it. And I get home and there's like, oh, that's a $500 piece. And oh, that's a $200 piece. And then I just really started looking at it. And I'm like, man, I don't want to pay all these eBay fees. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start an Instagram. I'm going to take a picture of it, boom, and showcase it, each individual thing. And it'll be like when you go to a restaurant and it's like, we only have 3 things on the menu, but all 3 of them are really good.
Yeah.
And when you spotlight it like that, people, and if it took forever to sell it, whatever, it wasn't costing me anything. So I figured this is just like eBay, only I don't have to pay listing fees. I don't have to deal with, any of the rigmarole of eBay.
Yeah.
And it worked. So, and then I thought about doing it on Facebook. Selling on Instagram is, it's like going to Target or like a nicer Target. Selling on Instagram or on Facebook is like, I don't know. It's like one of those like dirty discount stores. Like you gotta root through so much crap to find anything decent, and there's so many flippers and just people that, hey, I just bought this collection, did I do good? And hey, is this worth a lot of money? Oh, how about this one? And as soon as they, I don't even know what this is, but if you tell me what it is, and I'm gonna try to get like high-end retail for it because you just told me it's worth that much. And people do that, and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, get out of my way. Like get off the road.
As a regular customer of yours as well, I really appreciate that you don't sell on eBay, because not only do sellers get ripped off with fees, you have to charge a little bit more to cover that, so it's not good for the buyer either. Yep. And the really big thing for me, being an international customer, is the eBay global shipping program is an absolute ripoff. Yep. You can't buy a single Star Wars figure through the eBay global shipping program. They want me to pay $45 Australian to have it shipped, a single figure. That's like the minimum for anything. Whereas you've sent me stuff in the past, a Centurion's figure, a lot bigger, a lot heavier than a Star Wars figure for $25. So
I do sell on eBay. I use eBay as kind of my liquidation clearance avenue. If something doesn't sell on my Instagram, I'll leave it up for a while, and and they usually, by then, if anybody's interested, even if they're not interested at asking price, they'll send me a message or whatever and be like, hey, would you take this for this? And and I'm open to that if it's a few weeks after I post something. When people do it 5 minutes after I post something, I usually ignore them.
Yeah.
That's rude to me, because it's like, oh, you're asking this, but will you take way less because I'm special? But if something's been around for a little while, and higher dollar stuff, typically, if it doesn't sell on the page, it goes to Instagram. A good example, I just sold the G.I. Joe RC Crossfire, the radio controlled dune buggy. Had it up on the page and nobody showed interest, and I actually sold it on eBay for about $50 more than I listed it for. And a guy overseas bought it. I think he's in Belgium. And so I can only imagine how much they charged him for shipping on that, because it was a big box.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Matt Movie 611, thank you for the super chat. And he's got a really good question here. So I did a video some time ago about the top 10 retro franchises that didn't get toy lines. And he's asking what you think, Matt. What would be like the best 80s movie toy line that we never got?
That's a tough one because I know there's a lot of. I know the easy, low-hanging fruit answers would be like Last Starfighter, which they almost made, and a few other ones. The trivia geek in me wants to be really obscure and say something like John Carpenter's The Thing. But I mean, again, that's a pretty limited scale and everything. Or there's always so many characters and so many things. I feel like the biggest missed opportunity was the 1980 Flash Gordon movie. Getting Star Wars, like the retro style. I know we've gotten them since then. It's not the same. Like I want like a Hawkman battle, like the battle platform with the spikes.
Yep.
The swamp playset. I always thought that was such a missed opportunity because like you could have had like, imagine like the Ewok Village on steroids with like. I remember when the Ewok Village came out, I remember seeing it and being like, "Oh my god, I can finally do the Flash Gordon thing," but I don't have Flash Gordon figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Recondo got lowered down in the cage.
And Grindhead Jim says, and thank you for the super chat, Jim. He says, anyone who enjoys my toy videos has Matt to thank. He sold me my first vintage toys since childhood. Lex Luthor and Steppenwolf for the win. # Toy Estate.
That was during Iconicon too. I remember that.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Actually, well, yeah, I now have my carded Defenders of the Earth Flash Gordon that I bought from the toy auction. Finally got here. Retro Blasting says, Matt is the only person I trust to liquidate my collection if something unfortunate befalls me, because I know he will care about making sure Melinda comes away from that okay and not hosed by some knob.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want Melinda getting hosed by a knob. So yeah, stuff is in good hands, Mike.
Yeah. So, I've got a few questions here, but we just had a massive spate of super chats there, so that was fantastic. But have you got any stories you can share of some of these amazing finds? And I don't necessarily mean, like you mentioned, like, an $800 toy for $100. I just mean you're stumbling across a really rare toy that you just never thought you'd ever see. Got some stories like that, or?
I do. I've got a bunch of stories. I'm the kind of guy I get that from my dad. I can tell stories about anything. I could tell you a story about when I went to the grocery store earlier. I have a natural narrative. There was one really big score. Actually, that one I was just talking about, that $350 one. Guy was super nice, had a small house kind of in the middle of the woods, and he was in a wheelchair because he was, really, really big and just couldn't get around. And so he was always downstairs, and his wife and kids were always upstairs. And he had so much stuff that it was just it was decoration in the house, basically. And I could tell that his wife was over it.
Yeah.
Well, I walked in, and she actually found me because I put a post on Facebook. I think this was 2015, 2016. And I put a post on Facebook, hey, I buy toys, like all the flippers do basically now. And she sent me a message and was like, yeah, my husband has G.I. Joe stuff from 82 to 94, mostly vehicles. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll come take a look. And I'm thinking, if she knows that, if he knows that, they're going to know what they're worth. So they're going to want high dollar. So I get there and I walk in, and there's, a flag disassembled in the left corner. There's a terror drone. There's all this big stuff. And he's got bins, and I'm just going through these bins. And then I was just like, you know what, man, I came with $350, take it or leave it. And they loaded it up. We got it home. And then when I really started going through it, I pulled out, do you know what the Char d'Assault is?
No.
You never heard of that? It's a black Mobat. that came with the 83 Cobra Commander with the helmet. And it was released in Canada by Consumer Distribution or Distributing, something like that. They were a mail order only company. So it was a Canadian mail order exclusive. And it's an all black Cobra Mobat that came with Cobra Commander, and it's called the Char d'Assault because it's in French.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what it was. I looked at it, I was like, did they paint this? Is this a painted Mobat? And I got to looking at it, I'm like, no, this is molded. Did this come out in the 90s? Like I really started doing my research, and I reached out to all my expert friends that I had at the time. And one guy was like, oh, he goes, I don't know what that's worth, but I know it's super duper rare. So I started, I couldn't find any comps on eBay, and I'm like looking everywhere. Not only was it complete, but it was operational.
Wow.
And I want to say it could have been a little bit less, but I want to say it was like $800 because the guy that bought a bunch of other stuff from that lot. Some of it is still up. That Char d'Assault is actually on my Instagram still. It's way towards the bottom because it was one of the first things that I listed. But in that same lot, there was Night Force stuff, the Night Force Sky Striker, Dreadnought Ground Assault, just some really, really hard to find expensive pieces. And that was a legendarily good score.
Yeah.
It took me years to sell through all that stuff, and made a lot of money from it. And what I do want everybody to understand though is I don't say that as like a brag. I don't say that as like, oh, look at all this money I'm making on a $300 investment. I don't care about that. I make my money outside of toys. The money I make, and you can ask my girlfriend April this, the money I make from toys, I can have a claim sale on a weekend and, do $800, $1,000, whatever. Immediately, I turn that back into buying stuff. So it goes right back on the wheel. And so if I pay $400, $500 for a collection and I make $1,000, sure, I made $500 profit. But you have to look into that and say, well, how many parts did I have to source to make these things complete? Because when you start buying a $20 gun here and a $20 helmet there and whatever, it starts really eating into that. So, and then you have to look at packing and shipping and everything else. So that money that drips off the wheel, I turn and I flip it right back into buying stuff. And that's what kind of keeps things going. And I really do. It's corny to say it, but I do it because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy finding this stuff. I enjoy every time somebody buys something and claims it, I get like a rush. It's like, oh, awesome, cool. Like, I don't just sell that, but like somebody's going to get really happy when they open it. It's almost like a Santa Claus psychosis or something. But it feels good. It feels good to just like when I had the smoke shop. I loved doing that, not because I cared at all about the products, but every time somebody came in there and bought something, if they spent $300 on a water bong that they're going to go home and smoke weed out of, they're really happy about that. They're like, oh, look what I got. And, that's a great feeling when you sell something to somebody that they really want, regardless of whether or not they need it.
Yeah. Like all the Centurions I bought from you. For me, it's just great to have someone who are, I mean, we're beyond, sort of customer seller relationship. We're friends, but someone I know I can trust. For example, that last Centurions I bought, and then it's not your fault. They shut down international shipping to Australia, and I'm like, I know if it takes another month or another 3 months, you'll hang on to that, and it will get shipped when it gets shipped.
Yeah, that was really nice too. And when you bought the depth charger, I knew you were kind of like, yeah, I'll take that. Like it wasn't high on your list, but I knew when you opened that, you were going to be like, whoa, this is cool.
It is awesome. And then the more I'm looking into it, there's what I think you also sent me a really nice Centurions catalog with one of the lots, which I wasn't expecting. And I'm looking at that and it's like, oh, they've actually show you where you take the tidal blast and the depth charge and make this ultimate reinforcement mode. I was like, now I'm glad I got that. Because I can feature that in a video as well, and
Not only did I want to send you that poster because it's awesome, but also that was a little bit of salesmanship on my part where I'm like, you know what? Once he sees how cool the rest of these are, he's going to want all of them.
Yeah, I'm working towards it. I mean, that's going to be a big Toy Histories episode, and I've got to get through my Mask Toy Histories episode first, which, I spent a long time working on those videos. So I'm sure if Centurions doesn't come for 6 months, I'll end up acquiring a lot more before then.
Well, I buy them whenever I can find them, as long as I just secured another Wild Weasel, actually. So, right before I jumped on here, it was it was missing 3 parts, and I've got them in my bin. So,
yeah. Brian Dillingham, thank you for the super chat. This is for my various habits. He always sends me a contribution to the latest habit. So, yes, all of my, or not most of my stories of, getting a great deal on an item, most of mine come from people who don't know how to list things properly on eBay. So I've told this story before, but I had a mint carded version 1 Storm Shadow, mint carded, got it off eBay Australia. It was like the second issue card where like the grey file card and the G.I. Joe is like, the logo is like in 3D, not the flat white logo. But still a very, very desirable piece. Well, someone put it on eBay Australia with the very basic title of Storm Shadow, but they spelt Storm wrong. It was Strom Shadow. I don't even know how I came across it, actually, because it didn't have G.I. Joe in the title or anything like that. It was just Strom Shadow. Had it up on auction starting at I think it was starting at like $109.99 or something like that. And I'm like, this is easily $1,000 carded figure in Australian dollars. So I'm like, and I just went straight. It had 4 or 5 days to go. I just went straight in with a bid of like 300. And I was like, if I get it for 300, that's a bargain. If it goes over, I don't remember the figures exactly, but basically nobody else bid on it. And I won it for the starting bid of like $109, or maybe it was $100 with $9.99 postage or something.
Wow.
And then many years later, I resold that on, I think it was on eBay. I sold it because I needed funds to buy some other things, and I could get a lot of funds together from this one carded figure, and and I sold that for 800. So I bought it for $100 and sold it for 800, just because someone couldn't spell Storm. So. Not my fault.
The strong profit margin there.
Yeah. You've kind of already told us why you started Reklaimers Vintage Toys, but you do a lot of G.I. Joe stuff. Actually, on the unboxing live stream I did with Sal yesterday, like as in on 2 Cents Toys channel, he opened up a package from you, and he had this nice toll booth figure. And I said to Sal, so you trying to complete the vehicle? And he's like, nope. I'm like, why do you buy toll booth if you don't have the vehicle? And he's like, I like sledgehammers, which just made me laugh. And he's like, no, I just, like Road Pig and that is, I like the guys with the sledgehammers. Because the way my brain works, I wouldn't buy, like if I bought a big lot, that's how I've ended up with a really minty Wild Bill figure, but I don't have a Dragonfly. It came in a big lot of other stuff. But I don't think I'd go out and individually buy a figure, a vehicle driver, if I didn't have the vehicle I was trying to complete. It would normally go the other way around and get the vehicle and then get the driver later. But
I used to do that one with space constraints. Like there's certain drivers where it's like, yeah, you got to have Wild Bill, but where am I going to put a Dragonfly? Like I get that. And I know Sal has space issues, but
he just didn't seem that interested in the bridge layer. He just
it's kind of a goofy vehicle. I got the bridge layer when I was homesick with chicken pox, and I remember just laying there, just being miserable. And my mom took my brother shopping, and he knew G.I. Joe, and of course she comes in, she's like, I got you something, and I'm like, yes, tell me it's a moray or something awesome. And of course they went to, I think it was Sears or JCPenney, wherever that was an exclusive. And she walks in with the bridge layer, and I'm like, Oh, cool. All right. So it's a tank that lays bridges so that people can cross it. Okay, cool. I can see be using that one time, and then otherwise it's just, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
I had that as a kid, and it was always kind of a wasted slot for me. I was like, I know it.
So
has
would you say your excitement just rode right over that?
Yeah, it was a bridge for my excitement.
Yeah, that was a real bad dad joke there. I did want to ask you real quick about vintage Masters of the Universe. I know you do sell some, but not as much.
Rarely.
And
Rarely. This year I've sold a bunch, but I got a really, really large collection from a lady. So
yeah,
that's why I ended up with those.
But I'm sure we've either talked or I've heard you talk on a stream or something about some of the reasons you're not overly keen on selling Motu figures.
A couple of reasons, yeah. I will not, much like Michael at Retroblasting, I will not put new bands in those legs. I will not do it. I've done it 3 times and my hands still hurt.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have it in my hands to do that, or my knuckles, and I just don't care. And so when you buy a collection of Masters of the Universe figures, I mean, they're typically, they're just wobbly as hell because those bands have long worn out. I'll sell them in pieces with the bands. You do it. But most people don't like that. They put it together. It's not the original band, and they freak out. I bought that lot this year from that lady because I bought a G.I. Joe lot from her previous, and some other stuff as well. Really nice lady, and was selling her brother's stuff to help pay for her medical bills, and just accidentally came across her. It was kind of one of those weird things. And just got to talking to her, and she's like, "Oh, I've got more toys," and I was like, "Oh, well, send me pictures." So I bought this G.I. Joe lot, and some of it was still in the bags, like mail-aways. Some of it looked like it was open 35 years ago and never touched. So I was like, if this stuff is in this good a shape, I'll buy everything she's got. Like, I'll buy the He-Man, I'll buy whatever else, because I know it's going to be cared for. And it was 99% complete. So when I got the He-Man stuff, there was maybe 3 or 4 pieces that were missing something. But some of those bands were, they were as fresh as the day they came out of the package.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so when I come across something like that, and keep in mind, I paid hefty for that collection too. So a lot of people think just because, I'm reselling it that I got it, from some lady, whatever, that I paid $100 for it. No, I paid almost $2,000 for this lot. With shipping and everything. Sure, I made profit on it, but that's a lot of money to tie up in. He-Man, is going to sell. G.I. Joe, is going to sell. Sometimes, when I bought that Rambo collection, I thought it was going to. I eventually sold it all, but I thought it was going to move a lot faster than it did.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like being a chef and saying, you know what, I'm going to put shepherd's pie on the menu, and everybody loves shepherd's pie, and then nobody shows up for shepherd's pie.
Yeah.
And then you're left with all this shepherd's pie, and it's like, oh, what do I do? And then, so it's sometimes I'm lucky to get my money back on stuff. I did that with there was another. I've learned I don't go all in on certain things. I think Cops and Crooks. I did a sale this year, a couple of sales. And I did okay on them, but I didn't make much money because of what I paid for it, what I had to pay to complete them all, and then sell them at retail. It just, it wasn't. It was a lot of work to put in to make $100 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
A lot of times when people see sellers selling things for $5 or $10 more than what they saw it for on eBay, which is my favorite thing. They don't take that into account that, they've got money tied up in these things.
Yeah.
Same thing with just when if you're at a market in general and people are selling things and it's like, oh, wow, you're asking this much for that. Well, I can go to this place and get it for $2 cheaper. And it's like, well, dude, then go there and do that. Like, you're here right now. Is that not worth $2 to you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, if you want to make some really, really poor financial decisions related to toys, you could always start a YouTube channel and decide and go out and, like, I'm looking up here at my Lone Ranger collection. Lone Ranger, beautiful toy line from the 1970s, but nowhere near as desirable as like 70s G.I. Joe Adventure Team. So some of the pieces are pricey, but it's generally one of the cheaper vintage lines from the 70s to collect.
Yep.
But I amassed this really decent sized collection simply because I wanted to make a video about that toy line. The money I spent on that collection compared with the ad revenue, I probably spent well over $1,000 on that, probably close to $2,000, and I might have made $100 on, probably not even that in ad revenue. So there's a poor financial choice related to toys.
Oh yeah, if I just wanted to take the money that I've spent buying collections and make money on it just to make money, I mean, I'd invest in oil or something else. I mean, not toys.
Yeah.
I do this because it's fun. I don't do this because, I have any illusions of retiring on this. And I work a day job. So I actually work.
So it's a lot more fun than investing in Bitcoin or anything like that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, going back to the taking risks with buying collections too. I got in. It wasn't the Centurions that I bought from Master Son, but it was I picked up a lot from somewhere else. I can't remember, somebody on Facebook. And earlier today, I was cleaning it up because there was some dirt on it. So I took my electronic spinny toothbrush and I'm like, and running it under the water. And it was the jetpack part to the orbital interceptor. And it's not a huge piece. And it's got a hole where the missile plugs in. And I'm just, throwing water in this thing from the faucet. And there's so much dirt and bug guts and capsules and stuff like that. And just excrement coming out of this thing that it was just, I mean, it was like, where's it all coming from? And it was just like washing through the holes. And I mean, it was like the straight mud in the sink. And I'm like, oh my God, like you don't realize how dirty some of this stuff gets. So, I mean, there's, and again, I don't expect a merit badge, but there's cleaning that is involved in these things. And there's preparation. And sometimes I'll buy stuff from, like, good prime example. I just sent out a Havoc, a G.I. Joe Havoc that I bought from a live auction on Facebook. And I bought a handful of vehicles. Some of them are coming up for sale in my next sale. And they showed up to me filthy. Like they just came out of a barn. And this guy was on Facebook like, oh yeah, this is really, really nice. Oh yeah, da, 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 da. And then I get them and, it looked like somebody wiped their butt with them. So it's like, okay, well now I've got to delicately take all of the parts off and wash these things, dry them, photograph them. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into selling to being a good seller, I guess you should say.
Yeah.
I should say. It's not as easy, just poop.
There is a huge difference between complete and mint and complete. And sometimes I think people confuse the two. Because, if you can say to me something, it might be mint under all those layers of dust, but, I'm sure the Lost Ark of the Covenant is mint in some warehouse somewhere.
I learned that at a very, very early on in Reklaimers' life, not to use the word mint or minty. So now when I say something is mint, I'll say it's dead mint, and I mean it. If you ever see me say in a description that something is dead mint, that means I've looked it over at least 3 or 4 times, and I can't find anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you won't find something wrong with it. That just means that I didn't find anything wrong with it. And I deal with a lot of this stuff. So, for whatever it's worth, I'm kind of like a weatherman in that respect. I can tell you it's going to rain tomorrow. If it doesn't rain tomorrow, oh, well, I was wrong. So if I sell something, it's dead mint, and you want to complain that there's a a hair's worth of paint missing or something like that. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
I sent you pictures, they were in there. I didn't see it. Is what it is. Because I have had people try to buy something and then send me their version of it that was not as good. And I immediately, as soon as I got it back, and I'm like, this isn't the one I sold them.
Yeah.
Blocked, delete. That's a quick way to get voted off the island.
Yep. So we got a super chat here from Jim Largo. He's asking you a question here. He said, what sort of system you use to keep everything organized between the different toy lines?
Well, I have a whole garage full of parts. And I know I'm going to get inundated now from anybody that's watching this is going to be sending me messages going, hey, do you have that shotgun for Flint? I really want to buy one. I usually don't sell parts. So, stop the train. I accumulate parts, and sometimes I'll sell really rare ones. If I get a steering wheel to a Dreadnought ground assault, I'm going to sell that because I'm not going to sit around and wait until I get a ground assault that needs one. Chances are I'm never going to have that happen. So something that's a valuable part or whatever, I'll sell those on eBay usually. I did try doing a parts Instagram separately, and it was just too much to keep juggled. So it is still up, I think. I don't ever pay attention to it. How do I keep them all straight? It's kind of an organized chaos in my garage. Like I walk in there and I know where everything is, but to the average person, you'd walk in and be like, "Oh, wow, there's a drawer full of things over there and a drawer full of things."
Have you got a good memory for that, for knowing where?
I do. I have it's not a photographic memory, but I have a very compartmentalized memory. That's why I'm so good at trivia. Things that I'm interested in, it's almost like it's similar to a photographic memory, but it's like I can see the part. Like when I bid on Master Son's Centurions on Facebook, he posted the title blast and then it was missing some parts or a part or something like that. And I immediately looked at it and was like, yep, I have that part that it needs. And that informs all of my decisions when I buy stuff. If somebody's got a lot of loose Joes that are missing a handful of backpacks and helmets and all that kind of stuff, I can look at that picture and be like, yep, I've got that. I've got his stretcher. I've got his helmet. I've got his backpack. I've got that sword. Boom, I'll take it. And I have to be able to do that fast. And I'm kind of all of my friends that see me claim stuff in the Facebook groups and places like that, they see how quickly I jump on things. And it's like,
Yeah, so I really, again, it's not a photographic memory, but I'm quite good at that as well. I will admit that the polish on that talent has, begun to dim, certainly in the last few years. But I remember when I was heavily into collecting Action Man, I've got an enormous collection, and I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of spare parts. But I could mentally remember not only all the things I had in my collection, but all the individual spare parts and exactly what little container it was in what drawer. And the same reason, I'd be around, see something on eBay, and there'd be, a relatively rare figure and outfit that was going for a decent price because it was missing 2 accessories. And I'd be like, buy it now. You've got those 2 accessories. Yep. You know exactly where they are. And then you get this nice complete figure, which I may then end up with 2 of the same figure, but it's something I could then go and trade with another collector. It's always better to deal in complete stuff than incomplete if possible. So,
yeah. Well, doing it that way and buying collections and buying lots and things like that, that's the long game. And your casual collector doesn't want to do that. We're taking the risk. I'm the one buying the $500 collection or lot on eBay or whatever, and having to sift through all the crap to find, okay, that's a good piece. That's a good piece. That's a good piece. The rest of the stuff into the bin, like a storage bin.
Storage bin. Yeah, I know.
I gotta remember all the international language here. But I bought a lot of accessories a couple weeks ago, because I noticed, and it's not stuff that I sell, but there was a My Pet Monster manacle with the chain. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know those sell for like $40-$50. There's half the value in this lot right there. And there's a couple other parts. There's a couple mask parts in there. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And, once I get it, there's a complete star ear in there. That was a $50 piece. And you start adding things up. And I found parts in there that I didn't even realize. The bad part about that lot is all the stuff that, and miraculously, all of the good parts weren't affected by this, but the rest of it smelled like an ashtray. So now I have an entire box full of stuff that I can't even sell because it smells like cigarettes. I mean, it literally smells like someone blew cigarettes into this box for 20 years.
And you won't get that smell out.
Nope. So, I mean, I made my money back on the lot, but that's it, So the rest of it is, and I feel bad throwing it away because it's like, okay, well, that's, that's a $3 or $4 part. That's a $3 or $4 part. Itemized, it's a lot of money. I can't, what am I going to do? Soak them in cat litter? I mean, what do you do? It's in my luck, I'd sell it and be like, yeah, okay, it doesn't smell anymore, and it gets there, and then the smell comes back.
Sal's here going, he'll buy it. Don't think the smell of cigarettes bothers Sal.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I wouldn't say it bothers me because I can't smell it. So, but definitely, I mean that's a huge thing in the Action Man collector world because of all the fabric outfits. When people sell that on eBay, if you don't list like from a smoke-free home, people are just going to start asking you like, "Hey, has this ever been around cigarette smoke or anything?"
Well, plus the 60s and the 70s, a lot more people smoked.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, going to move on from kind of toys a little bit here. If Iconicon proved anything, it's that you're very knowledgeable about random 80s pop culture, particularly movies. Or I don't know if it's movies in general or just canon films. How did that all come about? And when did your passion for movies, when did it really start? And what was the stuff in the 80s you enjoyed watching the most?
Well, I was, like I said earlier, I was raised by my mom and my grandmother, and I was a latchkey kid. So, back in the 80s when you were still allowed to do that. And I remember, as early as like first grade, I would walk, get out of school and I'd ride my bike home and do my homework, watch cartoons, whatever. And so I spent a lot of time in front of the TV. I spent a lot of time just watching movies, watching TV shows, and just paying attention. And I feel like that's where a lot of that compartmentalized memory for me comes from is I'd watch a TV show or a movie, and if I would see people that were in, oh, yeah, they were in that movie, and then I would watch that movie again, and I would watch the credits, and I'd be like, oh, that's who that person is. Okay, so that's their name, and they're in this show, and I would see a director come up. Like I would, I love the Terminator. So whenever Aliens came out, I'm like, James Cameron, oh, that guy, where do I know that name? Oh, he directed the Terminator. And you could and I could see similarities in things. And we had HBO when I was a kid. So that was like, I would read the HBO guide and I would read the description of the movies that were coming out that month. And I would read the main stars that were in the movie and I would just kind of really study it. So yeah, that was the thing, is really big into movies and TV shows.
Yeah. I always remember the first or second time I ever watched Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and seeing James Cameron's name as a screenwriter, and I would have only been 8 or 9, and I'm like, well, that's the guy who made Terminator. A lot of other kids my age weren't looking at things like that.
Well, I was a freak. I was an absolute freak. I was that. I don't want to say it this way, but I mean, it's funny, but I was that weird kid in the neighborhood that was like, oh yeah, he knows everything.
all the useless things.
Well, I was really, I mean, again, I know everybody says this, but like I was a really smart kid. Like I got tested and they did the whole thing. And I was that cool nerd smart kid that didn't want to be smart and didn't want to be different than anybody else. I remember taking testing gifted IQ test thing or whatever and tanking some of it because I didn't want the attention. But yeah, like I was like in honors classes and all that kind of stuff. And I remember like I was the kid that would always like raise his hand and tell the teacher they were wrong about something.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
one of those things. I had that reputation. And then like just, in the neighborhood and stuff like that, it was like kids would be running around going, hey, let's play, He-Man. And I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's do that. But maybe we could play Delta Force. Because, we've got these toy guns and, like it's easier to do that. And, that movie's awesome. So, and kids would be like, I don't know. I haven't seen that movie. I'm 8.
So when I first went to join the Australian Army, so here in Australia, you go up to year 10 of high school. Most people do stay on for year 11 and 12, which is when you're 16 and 17. But if you get an apprenticeship, you're allowed to leave school at 15. Well, I tried to get an apprenticeship when I basically spent the summer holidays working for a kitchen manufacturer. Spent the summer holidays working for them, hoping to get an apprenticeship. They never offered me one. I went back to school. And basically, I was quite a smart kid, I felt like. But I just didn't want to be at school. I wanted to join the army, couldn't join the army till I was 17. So I just basically could have done like higher level mathematics and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, I'm going to do metal shop and woodwork and orienteering as a subject, stuff like that. So then I got my driver's license on my 17th birthday. That's the first day you can take a test. You can, so in Australia, you can't drive till you're 17. You get your learners a few months before. So I passed my test on my birthday. My dad lent me his car for the day. And I went into the big recruitment office in the middle of Perth City to join the Australian Army. And I had to do all these testing, these aptitude testing, medical tests and stuff like that. And I had to came home and I remember my parents being really upset that was the first thing I did as soon as I got a car, was go try and join the army. But they called me back in and said, look, why are you going general enlistment, as a regular soldier? What do you mean? They're like, well, we would like to encourage you to go to officer training and become an officer. And I didn't want to be an officer. I'm like, well, why is that? And he's like, well, your aptitude, you scored off the charts. Like, you're really smart. Normally you need, good school grades to go with that. And I'm like, I'm not interested. I want to be the guy who has to dig a foxhole. I don't want to be the guy telling 30 other guys to go and dig foxholes. Might sound weird, but I wanted my experience to be about getting blisters on my hands from an entrenching tool.
You wanted to be boots on the ground, not something polished. I don't know. That sounds like what we have to do in high school, or I don't know if they still do it or not, but we used to have to take we didn't have to, but they offered it, the ASVAB. It was the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery. And it's a test. If you go take it, they'll let you out like of other classes. They'll let you out of school after you're done for like the rest of the day. So that's the whole reason I took it. And I scored a 91. I believe the highest you can score is 94 or something like that. So all the recruiters were like, oh yeah, like they were like showing up at my house, and it was So I know exactly what you mean, and I was like, nah, man, nah. Like I don't want to be that. I want to be like the everyman.
yeah.
You don't want to like it's that same thing. Like we're cut from the same cloth. Like you don't want that spotlight attention on you.
No, and I've never regretted that. I've never regretted. It's like a bit of a side note. Like when we were discussing like the backstory for Desert Rat, the character with Bobby, he was going to make the character a senior officer, and I was like, nope, that's a deal breaker for me. But the way, because we were trying to figure out his relationship with Condor, but the way it ends up panning out, it works really well. So
you're like Duke. You've turned down commission 6 times.
Something like that, possibly. Yeah.
I remember that in his file card when I was a kid. It was like, he turned down commission like 6 times because he doesn't want to be a full bird colonel or whatever. He wants to be a he wants to be in the stuff with all the guys. Like it was just very, Larry Hama doing this thing. So that was. I don't know. I forgot what original question we were on.
I was just asking about your knowledge of canon films and stuff like that. But look, we've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes, and this is normally the point in a Palitalk where I like to invite my guests to play a little game. So you know the format of the game?
I'm familiar with it, but remind me.
Okay, well, I will anyway, just in case there's new members of the audience. So I'd like to play a little game that I just call Sum It Up in One. So you're going to get 5 things proposed to you, be they toy lines, toys, maybe a retro movie or something like that. And you have to try and sum up that, whatever it is, in one word. Not 2 words, because that makes it... Sum it up in 2 is a really boring game. Sum it up in 1 is quite different. But just before we go with the first one, we've got a quick super chat here. James Saltzberg, thank you very much. He said, did Desert Rat got Article 15 too many times? I don't know what Article 15 is.
Yeah, it's an American.
It's definitely an American. It would be like a military charge of some sort, an Article 15, but quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Probably.
Yeah. So I really haven't, and I never do this with any of my other guests. I haven't written down the 5 questions. I like to pick up a few things during the chat. So let's start with trying to get you to sum up in 1. And I'm going to specify here the toy line, not the cartoon.
Okay.
In humanoids.
Underappreciated.
Oh, that's 2 words.
Or no, is it 2 words? Overlooked. That's 1 word.
Okay.
Don't you play semantics with me? I'll win.
I'm gonna type that into a message and see if my spell checker comes up. No, it's underappreciated is 2 words.
Okay, so overlooked.
According to my iPhone.
Look, final answer.
Yeah. All right. Can you sum up for me in 1 word Ninja 3: The Domination?
Man, I should have studied for these. 1 word. I keep thinking of phrases.
Yep.
Man, this one's hard. There's so many words about that movie. Juicy. Because I can't say tomato juice because that's food. Juicy. Movie's juicy. And I mean like Notorious Big Man. Like it's really
that's now one of the first things that pops into my head when I think about that film. Not because of my memory of the film, because of the retro blasting. Did they do a Dragon Con panel about ninjas or something? Yes. From one of their videos, and they show that clip, and it's now that's more fresh in my mind than I suppose watching the whole film. So yeah, it was, as a kid, it was always really cool seeing a ninja who could just spin around really fast and bury himself in the ground. That was
I loved that movie. I was much like Michael. Like I was all about ninjas when I was a kid, and ninja movies. I mean, all the kids in the neighborhood, like we used to like, talk about ninja stuff like we knew, like, oh yeah, I'm studying to be a ninja,
Yeah, everyone was.
That movie had that ninja magic appeal where like the dude could do stuff that you just couldn't do. I mean, you can't corkscrew yourself into the ground and
yeah,
all the supernatural powers that he had. But it kind of felt like, wow, if you're a good enough ninja, maybe you can do that stuff.
yeah,
I feel like that movie elevated the ninja mythos into like this like legendary kind of like Herculean kind of thing where it wasn't just, you're not just guys sneaking around stabbing people. Like, you might be able to fly if you're a ninja. Like, if you're good enough, if you're like a really good ninja, you might be able to, come back from the dead.
Have you got a favorite ninja movie from the 80s?
Ooh, I like so many of the Shokasugi ones. If I had to pick one, I think the most enjoyable one is Ninja 3 because of the camp factor. It's just bonkers, and I love it. Pray for Death is an underappreciated one. I can say that now. And that one is it's got the ninja revenge thing where he's like getting revenge for his family, but it's hard edged. Like it's not as loosely tied together as the first, like the Revenge of the Ninja and Enter the Ninja and all that. It's hardcore. The kills in that movie are great, and he uses like some like different stuff that ninjas don't normally use. Like he has one like it looks like a fan, like a ninja star that you like, and it like fans out, and it's like it almost looks like Tinker Toys or something, where it's like there's like a middle, and then it's like a spike that comes all around, and he like and like does that and throws it, and it's like a frisbee too. It's big around, and it flies through the air and sticks this guy in the neck and like pins him to a wall. Like I don't know. I love that how hardcore that one is as a ninja movie, and a lot of people don't ever talk about it. So
I'm going to have to revisit that because I can picture the cover. Is that what he's on the cover? The ninja with like the metal mouthpiece.
He's got the metal chainmail mask. He's got the
yeah. So I can remember that, but I'm still not sure if I've ever actually seen it. So
it's Shokasugi. I feel like in his prime. I feel like that was his apex mountain of his ninja movies. And it was kind of one of the last, it wasn't the last one, but it was kind of the end. It was, I think, 87 that one came out. So it was when kind of ninjas went more into Ninja Turtles than guys in outfits and stuff. So.
Yeah. Revenge of the Ninja is my favorite.
I like that one. That one is two movies kind of smashed together. That's another little bit of trivia there. The initial cut of that movie didn't make any sense. So they recut, and then they put in the whole thing with him being a businessman, and then the white guy that was like his partner and all that. And they refilmed all of that.
Oh, really?
So it's all jammed together. It's literally like they filmed about a third of that movie and just kind of cut it in to try to save it. But the action in that one is really good.
Yeah. We got a super chat here from KJ. I think he's blowing kisses to your Panoche Place Voltron there. Much appreciated, KJ. All right. So sum up for me in one word, Coleco's Rambo.
I already used overlooked.
It's not overlooked in this household, man. It's it's very much appreciated here.
I have to say my one word, and then I can say everything else I think about it.
Oh yeah, no. People, I always allow guests on here to elaborate on the word they choose, but you've still got to try and sum it up in one word.
You might want to Google this one to see if it's one word or two, but I think it might be hyphenated. Hamstrung.
I think that's one word.
Yeah. I think it's hyphenated, but I think that counts. Yeah, hamstrung, because that line, I was thinking, it's funny you said that too, because I was thinking about both sectars and that line earlier today because I was taking pictures of a sectar. If you put elbow articulation and knee or they had knee articulation. If you put elbow articulation, that's the one thing missing from that line to make it great.
Yes.
As a kid, I passed on Rambo because I saw them in the stores and I was like, oh, holy crap. Like, these are way bigger than my Joes, so they can't integrate. But I like Rambo, and that guy was in the movie, the Sergeant Havoc guy. And I don't know who all these other guys are, and I never saw the cartoon. But I was like, this is pretty cool. That Jeep looks rad. You know, everything was clicking off the boxes. I saw those fixed elbows, and I remembered a friend of mine that had a sectar, and I'm like, oh, these are made by the same company. So it's that same body style. And I remember playing with his sectar and being like, these are kind of cool. It sucks, though, that he's always like this, and you can't really do anything with him because it's like you're either firing a gun from the hip or you're holding it like this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to fight with a sword? This is what I'm doing. And I remember seeing that and then just being like, they're expensive. I could buy 2 G.I. Joes for 1 Rambo figure. I was really big on the economics of toy buying as a kid too. And I would look at value of like, okay, this costs this much, this costs this much, and like what can I get for my dollar? Because I always knew there was about a $10 over under on what I could ask for. And am I going to stretch it and try to get 2 Rambo figures, or am I getting 4 G.I. Joes?
So
but they were just held back, hamstrung. I'm sure there's a million other good words, but like they were one step away.
I think hamstrung is a good word. Like I loved them in spite of their flaw because I was into any kind of military toy line. Rambo was somewhat of a childhood hero, more so the Rambo that you see in First Blood than First Blood Part 2. But they were definitely hamstrung by that. It really did. It could have made a good toy line great. Just the addition of elbow articulation.
And just to show you the enduring value of Rambo weapons, here is a G.I. Joe classified Cobra Trooper. With a Rambo AK. They are perfectly scaled and they are affordable.
And they look pretty good.
And that is a Rambo Walther P38 in his back pocket.
And looks a lot better than the weapons that actually came with that figure.
That is a Makarov 9mm in his chest holster.
Sergeant Havoc's pistol.
So they scale perfectly with these. That's why I decided to buy G.I. Joe Classifieds, is because I had a bunch of these Rambo weapons, and I'm like, yeah, that works. I'll do that. Because those Nerf guns that they come with are a no-go for me.
So we are with 3 down, 2 to go.
Okay, hit me.
Can you sum up for me in one word 80s Chuck Norris?
This one word is killing me. I'm so verbose. I am loquacious, damn it. 80s Chuck Norris. Manly.
I was going to say hairy, but...
or you know what? I take it back. Macho. I'm going to say macho.
Yeah. Are you a Chuck Norris fan?
Oh, yeah. I'm not a blind Chuck Norris fan. I realize the camp involved with most of his movies and that they're not great. I kind of cherry pick what Chuck Norris movies I like a lot. Some of them are just, crap. But I think Lone Wolf McQuade is the best Chuck Norris movie. I think Delta Force is the best movie that Chuck Norris is in. But I love Missing in Action.
That's my favorite.
Some of his earlier stuff. Missing in Action 1. Missing in Action 2 is kind of a mess, but
oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah,
it's got its charms, but it's a mess. We actually, as a kid, we used to play Part 2, Missing in Action. Like we would play that running around in the neighborhood with guns because it had more characters, and it'd be like, oh, you're going to be this guy, and you're going to be this guy. He's the one that gets away, and so it was more playable. Good Guys Wear Black. There's another little bit of trivia for you. As part of the development of Snake Eyes, when they decided that they had to do away with all the colors for one of the color apps for one of the figures to have enough money or whatever in the budget to do the other 13 Joes, they kind of made Snake Eyes the sacrificial lamb. And they were like, oh, we'll just mold him in one color, just black, because Good Guys Wear Black had just come out like a year before or whatever. So that was I don't know how much of a thing, but I've heard that over the years that was like a mental cue that's like, oh yeah, Good Guys Wear Black, that's fine. Yeah.
It's funny. My sister was responded to a Facebook post the other day, and it's one of those random posts where people are like ask you a silly question, like one of those posts that I never respond to. But it was what's one movie that you just can't bear ever watching, something like that. And my sister's responded in there going, anything with Chuck Norris. And I'm like, you did not just say that. So I private messaged her and went, by the way, Dirty Dancing sucks. Because she's only like a bit less than 2 years younger than me. So growing up in the 80s, Saturday mornings, we were always fighting over the VHS recorder. I'm going to want to put in a videotape of First Blood or Missing in Action. And she wants to put in, it was Dirty Dancing and Grease was the other one.
Oh, of course.
Oh, my God. All the time.
Oh, another fun fact before I forget. Chuck Norris movie, Invasion USA.
Yep.
If you're familiar with that one, my dad was an extra in that movie. The scene where they pull up the boats and all the guys run off, all the bad guys run onto the beach. He was an extra for that scene, and he became the unofficial weapons master for that scene because he knew how to handle guns. He was former law enforcement and everything else, so he was showing all of those extras that. Some of them didn't know which end of the gun was which, how to like hold them and how to carry them and everything else on that film. So, yeah. Well, fun trivia. My dad was in a Chuck Norris movie.
Mate, if that was me, I'd have that carved into my tombstone when I passed away.
Well,
never mind anything else. Never mind anything I did in the military. Just I was an extra in a Chuck Norris film.
Yeah, that's the story I got. He is one for tall tales, though, so you never know.
Hey, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we've got one left to go, and nothing immediately springs to mind.
Uh-oh.
I could be really mean here, though. Will I? Won't I? Can you sum up for me in one word the Retro Blasting YouTube channel?
Fortitude.
Yes. Yeah. Integrity is a word that pops in, but
yeah, that would be the next one down the list. But yeah, I always think of Fortitude when I think of Michael and Melinda, for that matter. Yeah, that's what attracted me to him. That's what made us be friends. It's rare the farther along in life that you get to meet people and to come across people that have fortitude. And it's one of the things I've valued the most in my life with people, with friends. The friends that I still have, that I've had my whole life, have fortitude. The ones that are weak and bend in the wind and are flaky, they've fallen away. Those are the people to me in your life that, if you're smart anyway, that you let the wind take them away.
Yeah.
But the people that plant themselves and say, no, this is right. This is who I am. This is how I'm going to be. This is the person that I'm going to be. And I'm not going to flap to the wind. And I'm not going to carve myself and whittle myself away to fit everybody else's desires. Those are the people that stand, and those are the people that endure. So,
yeah. And you really did get loquacious there.
And poetry, you can find it.
We have Retroblast here saying, eyes begin to narrow. Not sure if on alert or trying to hold back tears.
Oh, stop it. You're not crying.
Look, I do have a massive amount of respect for people just being themselves and not trying to, whether they're sucking up to toy companies or they just want to be popular or whatever. I can completely disagree with someone, but if they stick to their opinion, I'm much more likely to become friends with that person than the person who seems as though they're changing their opinion or their stance on things just to be part of a group or a clique. Even all the time in the military, like, you would have read a lot and seen a lot in movies about this strong comradeship that's bonded in, and that certainly is true, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone I was in the military with, I developed that. And, there's some guys I just didn't get along with and probably won't ever get along with. And even with that strong comradeship, of all the different guys I served with over the years, there's only a handful that I stay in touch with for the same reasons. And I feel as much of a kinship to them as I do to Michael French. Yep. Michael French did not serve simply because there was no conflict going on when he was kind of, I've heard him say this in the video. He just, maybe his life would have been completely different had there been a conflict going on at the time when he sort of reached that military age. But that doesn't mean anything to me whether someone chose to serve or chose not to. It just means who you are today. In fact, your past doesn't even matter. It's you may have made mistakes. It's who you are now, what you've learned from all that. So,
well, I played a lot of sports growing up too, and it's something that carries over into being a soldier. Is it's about the guy next to you. It's about the person next to you going through what you're going through.
Yeah,
and whether it's, obviously it's a much different theater, but combat and a football game are very similar in that you're in this together, and you're, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Not Audie Murphy. Not everybody is, Tom Brady, or whatever. Even he, you can't do it all by yourself. And I think that's a quote from, if I'm remembering correctly, from Black Hawk Down, where one of the Delta guys tells the guy at the end, he's like, people ask me what I do back home, and they say, why do you do it? Why do you keep going back and re-enlisting and all that kind of stuff? And he's like, they don't get it because it's about the guy next to you. I just now thought of that when I said that, but and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know if that's the exact quote, but I believe Eric Bana is the one that said it. But
you're right. Yep.
When it's true in life, it's that's who your friends should be, is people that, without even people that you don't have to wonder or worry about. And I feel like there's comradeship, like you said, that camaraderie that goes with, when you're playing on a team with somebody or on a basketball team, you don't have to worry that you're going to throw the guy the ball to score and he's going to take the ball and run into the locker room and leave.
Yeah.
But in life, when you're friends with somebody, they can do that. And look at what's happened the past couple of weeks. It's a prime example.
Exactly.
You're on the court and you pass the guy the ball and you're like, go ahead, shoot, we can win. And they literally take the ball and they drop it and then they run to the locker room and hide. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, could you at least told me you were going to do that? Because I wouldn't have thrown you the ball.
Yeah.
You just made all of us lose, theoretically, because you just decided to do that.
Yeah.
And, that's not who you want in your life. That's not who you want to be with and friends with.
No.
I don't want to get on a soapbox about that, but anybody that's watching this right now, you're either watching it because you're a mole and a troll and a dirty little human, or you're watching it because you're a fan of Tony and what he does, and you're a fan of Michael and what he does. And, I'm not even going to say you're a fan of what I do because, I'm just the guy that pops up. I'm just a guest star here.
A very popular guest star at that. I was
back in Silverhawks. Like, I just show up for like 1 or 2 episodes, and it's like, hey, what's up? Cool. All right. Have a good one.
Retro Blasting here saying, Tony. It's not because there was no conflict. It's because the uniforms weren't Surge Wall battle dress anymore. Yeah, I'm sure you would have been one of those guys who you would have worn your World War II battle dress jacket under the rest of the uniform.
There would have been an army in the world that still was operating Spitfires. I feel like Michael would have immigrated to that country.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
Michael's now a member of the Guam Air Force.
Well, we've been going for over an hour and a half now. So just before we wrap this up, for anyone who joined late, I'll just let them know that on the screen here, this very handsome man, I know it looks like David Morse, but it's actually Matt Swaford of Reklaimers Vintage Toys. He's a very well-trusted vintage toy seller. I've become a very loyal customer of his, and links to both his Instagram page where he sells, but also his Patreon where you can get early access to the items he has coming up for sale. Links are in the description below. Matt, is there anything you would like to finish on before you wrap up here?
I just want to thank everybody for coming. And going back a few months, just want to thank everybody for attending and making Iconicon as great as it was. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
It was.
It allowed me to win this sweet baby right here. First trophy I've won since it's been a while, a long time. Yeah, just thanks for everybody for coming. If you're ever looking for vintage action figures, toys, especially, not specifically, but for the most part from the 80s, give me a follow. If you ever have any questions, if you're ever looking for anything, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. I know a lot of the Retro Blasting crew and everything. I'm friends with some on Facebook. I'm very careful about who I accept friend requests from. I know I said this during Iconicon because I was getting a lot of them. People would watch the things and they'd be like, oh, friend request. And especially if I don't recognize your name or if I don't know who you are, you might want to maybe send a message saying like, hey, I'm a big fan or whatever. Because there's a lot of, like I said a second ago, there's a lot of trolls and a lot of moles and a lot of people that think they're slick and like to spy on people. So I kind of protect the house a little bit when it comes to social media. But on my page, especially about toy business, you're more than welcome to send me a message. If you're trying to find a special piece, I mean, like when Tony came to me and said, I'm looking for Centurions, I was like, I'm your guy.
Yep.
Even if I don't have them, I'll keep my eyes open. I'll try to find them. All of that stuff informs how I buy. And that's another good reason to join my Patreon. Not that I'm going to pimp it out now, but my Patreon kind of operates like a VIP club. Not saying that any of my Patreon members are more important than anybody else, but it kind of gives you that behind the scenes access where you get to see what I'm going to post 24 hours before it goes up on my Instagram. So you get like that fast pass at Disney where you get to cherry pick with 20 other people as opposed to 5,000. And as you've done, Tony, like you've claimed stuff as soon as it goes up and it's like, boom, nobody else in the 20, like I've got 24 patrons or something like that. Nobody else is going to take this. I'm going to grab it before it goes live. And, I've got to contend with everybody else. So it gives you that kind of inside track. It's only $1 a month for the first tier, and you get to see all that. If you do a $5 tier, you get 5% off everything you buy. If you do a $10 tier, you get 10% off everything you buy. So if you're going to make a substantial purchase, it pays for itself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I definitely recommend that Patreon if you live here in Australia, because of the time difference. When Matt's there in the morning and he's posting everything to Instagram and we're sound asleep, by the time we wake up, the shit you wanted is gone. So, but no, but also, yeah, reach out to Matt on Instagram if you're looking for stuff, because I remember reaching out to you about the Kenner Real Ghostbusters Ecto 1, and you're like, well, I don't have one, but I kind of have a lead on one. And then sure enough, a week later, Matt had secured me a beautiful minty condition Ecto 1. So,
well, that's a good point too, because I wouldn't have bought that because I don't deal a lot in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I have, the original 4 and all that, but there were so many of those made later that I just don't even mess with them. But the lady that I bought that Motu collection from and the G.I. Joe collection, she had one, and I knew it, but I was just kind of like, I went right past it. I'm like, and then when you said you were looking for one, it was like, oh wait, let me rewind. Let me hit her up.
Yeah.
So had you never reached out to me, I never would have got that. So you would have bought it on eBay and paid probably twice as much. So yeah, that's why it's always good to reach out. It's always good to be a member of the Patreon. And the Patreon, if you send me a message, I get it a lot quicker than on the regular Instagram. I don't monitor those messages as succinctly.
Yeah.
So yeah. There was something else I was going to say. Darn it, I forgot. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time. I knew I was going to enjoy this, and I really have. It's I don't know if it's the first time it's just been you and me on screen. I think every time in Iconicon there was a few other people. So.
I believe so. I think you, I, and Michael did. I think one. We did one thing. It might have been somebody there. I don't know, but yeah, this is our first. This is our first one-on-one. So it's been fun. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
No, my absolute pleasure. And as I said, all of Matt's links are in the description below. So I can smell bacon. I think. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I remembered what I was going to say. I typically don't sell internationally. I do have yourself. There's another Patreon member that's in Australia. I know Jody is in the Netherlands. So I make exceptions. A good rule of thumb is as long as you're willing to pay the actual shipping, I will ship internationally. I just won't know what that shipping charge is until I go to the post office. So as long as you're okay with it, anyone listening, a good rule of thumb is if you can't buy something off of eBay in the United States, I'm not shipping to you. Because there are certain countries that they won't ship, the global shipping thing won't ship to. The main reason for that is that mostly the tracking in those countries is non-existent, and it's just way too easy to get screwed over. So, so if you can't buy something on the eBay in the United States, then I'm not going to ship to you. But if you can buy it through the global shipping program, let me know.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully this isn't the last time we share a screen, different cameras, same screen. Hopefully this isn't the last time between now and Iconicon 2022. So
it'll be here before we know it.
It will. And perhaps when I start up the new podcast in November with Laser Pants and Bobby Valor, I'm starting a new podcast, what we call fortnightly, but I think Americans call bi-weekly for some strange reason. We're going to start up a podcast. It's going to be every other week, around this time on a Saturday night, every other week. So, and we're going to have guests on there. So maybe we'll get you back on and we can have a chat with Bobby and Laser Pants as well. That'd be good. So
I would love to. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks everyone in the chat for coming out. Thanks, Matt, for taking the time, and we will see you in the next video. I've got a video coming out about Incredible Hulk stuff. I think you're going to like it. So,
nice. Very cool.
See you later.